Thank you, Miss Chloe. All right, so more EOC fun. This is kind of a big review of everything. Plus, I guess we also have to do an exam for this class as well. Be pretty similar to last time. It'll be just, just some general multiple choice questions. Nothing too rough. As you know, I'm not particularly interested in making your lives hard. So, all right, let's go ahead and do some more of this stuff. And again, like I said, this is kind of a review of what we've been doing. So let's pick it up where we left off. All right, so here we're talking about, is a number rational or irrational? And it helps to kind of define what each one of those are. So a rational number, notice, has the word ratio in it. Okay, so that means that our answer can be displayed as the ratio of two numbers. All right. So irrational is a very small group of numbers typically. It is like a square root of a number that is not a perfect square. And pi is an example of an irrational number. And then also something called e, but we don't really get into that much. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at these guys, figure out if we got rational or irrational. All right, so the first one says the product of the square root of 2 and 5. Okay, so that would just be 5 times the square root of 2, right? So the question is the square root of 2, is 2 a perfect square? And the answer is no. So should we go rational or irrational on that one? So in the text, you can just put an I or an R, depending on which one you think it is. Actually, that one is going to be irrational because you can't get rid of the square root of 2. Okay. So 5 times the square root of 2, the square root of 2 is an irrational number. If you multiply a rational by an irrational number, it will stay irrational. So that's okay. Okay. So how about the next one? This says x squared plus 2 evaluated at x equals the square root of 7. So how about this guy? Rational or irrational? What do you think? Yeah, you would think that initially, wouldn't you? But here's the thing. Let's look at this one down here. See, this thing's going to be glitchy today. So if we do the square root of 7 and then square it, don't we just get regular 7? Square root of 7 times square root of 7 is the square root of 49. Square root of 49 is just a 7, right? So this would just be 7 plus 2. So that's 9. So 9 is definitely a rational number. Okay, so don't let the square root of 7 fool you on that one. Once you square it, it goes back to being a rational number. Okay. So how about the next one? The sum of the square root of 10 and the square root of 16. So we're going rational or irrational on that one. Yeah, that one would be irrational. Good. The reason for that is, yeah, the square root of 16 is 4, but then you have to add it to the square root of 10, and we can't get rid of the square root of 10. So that's going to be irrational. Good. All right, how about the last one? Okay, so this one, we're going to put in the square root of 3, or not square root of 3, excuse me, just regular 3, my bad. And then square it. So 3 times 3, that's going to be 9, and then times pi. Now, is pi rational or irrational? No, pi is irrational, actually. Irrational, once again, is a number that the decimal part doesn't do a repeating pattern or it doesn't stop. And pi is one of those numbers. So if you've got an irrational number times a rational number, then this one also is going to be irrational. Okay? So we seem a little confused by that. We okay now? So again, if you have something and your final answer has a square root in it that you can't get rid of, like in the first one here, we had 5 times the square root of 2. Okay, we can't get rid of the square root of 2. That means it's irrational. Here we could get rid of the square root because when you took the square root of 7 and squared it, we just got regular 7. Okay, so we got rid of the square root there. So that's the big question. Can you get rid of the square root? Okay, the next one, we can get rid of the square root of 16 and call it 4. Square root of 10, though, can't get rid of it. If you can't get rid of the square root, then it's irrational. And then the same thing here. When you have pi, anything that has pi in it is going to be irrational. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so give me a minute to work on number 1, and then we'll go over it. So once again, this is just distributing and combining like terms. Pretty easy stuff, but go ahead and take a minute and work through it on your own, and then we'll talk. All right, so the first one here, what should we do first? What's our first move? Yeah, so you want to distribute, right? About that, I was taking care of something here real quick. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to do the 2 times 3, right? So that'll give us 6x squared. Then we do the 2 times minus 2, so that'll give us minus 4x. And then finally 2 times 1, that's going to be plus 2. Now, these guys here, we got to switch the signs, right? Because we got the minus sign. So we got minus times 4, so it's minus 4x. And then minus of minus is going to be plus 8. Okay, should have started that over a little further. Let's see if I can actually do that. Hang on. How cool is that? All right, so then we just combine like terms, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So I forgot the squared on this guy. All right, so we put these two together. So I've got 6 minus 4, that's going to be 2x squared. And then we've only got the minus 4, so we just bring him down. And then finally we've got just the 2 and the plus 8 is plus 10. So that's our guys. Cool. All right, go ahead and work on number 2 for a minute, and then we'll talk. Okay, so this one's pretty similar, right? Except this one we got to multiply in two different spots, right? So we start here. We got 2 times 1 is 2, right? X times x is x squared, right? And we do 2x times minus 1, that's going to be negative 2x, right? Okay, then over here, we've got minus 2x squared, right? So minus 2x squared. And then we've got minus 1 and minus 2 times each other, give you plus 2. Okay, so we go ahead and combine like terms. So what's going to happen with these guys? I've got 2x squared and minus 2x squared. What's going to happen there? Yeah, they're going to just cancel out. That's a beautiful thing, right? So we're just left with minus 2x and plus 2. Cool. All right, so 3 and 4 are just FOIL problems. So go ahead and take a second, walk through those, and then we'll go over them. Okay, so let's walk through this one. So some people call this the FOIL method, the rainbow method, all kinds of different things. But the thing you want to make sure is that we have all of our terms multiplied together, right? So since we have 2 terms in the first expression, the first set of parentheses, 2 terms in the second set of parentheses, if you multiply them together, 2 times 2 is 4, right? So before we combine anything, we should have 4 terms, okay? So let's take a look at that. So if you do FOIL, F is first terms, right? So that's the first term in each parenthesis. So we've got 2 times 4, that's going to be 8. And x to the first times x to the first is x to the second. Okay? So then we do the outside terms. That's the very first guy and the very last guy. Okay? So that's going to be 2 times negative 6. That's going to be minus 12x. All right, so then we move to the inside guys. Let's go ahead and do that. So I've got 1 times 4x, so that'll be plus 4x. And then finally we've got 1 minus 6, it's just minus 6. Okay, so we have 4 terms. So we're pretty confident that we've taken care of everybody that needs to be taken care of, right? So the only thing we look for now, and there's a pretty standard pattern to these things, is usually get just an x squared term. So bring him down. So that's 8x squared. We get a number guy, bring him down, minus 6. And then we get 2 guys that have x's that we can combine. Okay? So we have minus 12 plus 4, that would be negative 8x. And that's our final answer. Okay, so with these guys, about the only thing that ever happens unusual is sometimes you will get the middle terms to cancel out and you won't have a middle term. Okay, so take a look at the next one and then we'll talk. All right, Chloe, I think you're onto something. So let's check it out. So we got 9 times 9, that's 81. And then x times x is x squared, right? Okay. And then what happens in the middle here is we have minus 2 times 9, so that's going to be minus 18x. And then on the outside, we've got plus 18x. So as predicted, those guys cancel out. And then finally, we just do minus 2, and plus 2 is going to be minus 4. Okay, but if you recognize that these things look exactly the same, except one's plus and one's minus, then you know automatically that these guys are going to cancel. So yeah, very good. Your answer is 81x squared minus 4. Perfect. Good job. All right, let's go ahead and do a couple more. So these are factoring, so we want to undo what we've been doing. So instead of multiplying them out, we want to split them back up. Okay. So go ahead and work on that. Okay, so for the first one here, everything's plus, right? So go ahead and set up shop. So then we've got X and X. Plus and plus here means plus and plus here. So then we need two factors of 28 that multiply together and give you 28, add together and give you 11. Okay, not a lot of factors to 28. There's 1 and 28, there's 2 and 14, there's 4 and 7. And as Chloe discovered, 4 and 7 do add to 11. So that's our guys. Great job. Okay, go ahead and try the next one. Oh no, I always mark you present. If you show up at all, you're marked present, so don't worry about it, okay? And I know you've had some Wi-Fi problems, so we're just glad you made it, okay? Thanks, Taylor. All right, so Chloe came up with an answer. See how that one worked out. So again, same thing. Let's go ahead and set up here. So we got X and X. Okay. So if this guy is plus, then we have a choice to make. There's either going to be 2 pluses or 2 minuses. That is determined by this guy. And since he's negative, these will both be negative. Okay. And if we look at it, we say, well, 5 times 10 multiplies to 50, right? So 5 times 10 is 50. And -5 and -10 is -15. So yeah, that's our guy. Good. All right, last one for today. So go ahead and factor that guy and then we'll talk. Okay, Chloe, I think you got a typo, but I think, yeah, I figured as much. So yeah, these are easy. When you don't see a middle term, this is what they call the difference of 2 squares, right? So we do like the X and the X, right? Minus sign here means we've got 1 plus and 1 minus, and the square root of 81 is 9. So we do plus 9 and minus 9. Okay? Beautiful. All right, so we'll stop for today. And I thank you guys for stopping by. And we'll see you next time.